Hello and welcome back to SuperCoach Edge. And it is a little bit of a different one this time around for round 20, bit of a recap, and of course, a bit of a preview for round 21. Now, I am aware, as we are going live here, that round 21 has kicked off, and you do have to apologize. Well, I have to apologize to all of you out there due to the fact that we've had a little bit on for this week in terms of personal life, work life, everything else. And I figure as well that we haven't yet done a live for a little while. So figured it was about that time. So why not do it now? Late night live. And we are, of course, live. Now, of course, we will be recapping what occurred tonight as I go live, of course, on the Thursday night. The clash between the Dogs and the Giants. Bit of a one-sided affair, which took me by surprise. I must admit, I actually tipped the Giants and thought it might have been a bit of a closer encounter. Wasn't to be. But there were a host of some really nice scores in that game as well, and a bit of a VC option as well. But we are here, of course, as I said, late night live. You may have seen the tweet that I have put out there, calling it a bit of an open mic session. So given that, of course, I am keen, or if anyone is keen in turn to jump on, have a little bit of a chat, you are more than welcome. The mic and floor is yours. So with that, let's quickly go through how we scored for the round that was. And you probably would have seen it was a little bit of a big round, you could say. It was a very, very big round in round 20. And I had some nice scores. Not too bad. Not too bad. I imagine all of you out there had likewise as well. But it was literally from another planet. I reckon it was probably up there in terms of one of my highest scores that I've had in my time playing Supercoach. And I'll just flash up on screen here for those of you who didn't tune into my Team Talk episode, but just a bit of a quick recap. 2,688 I ended up scoring in round 20. And ranking-wise, you would have thought with that score that you would have climbed the ranks. No. Wasn't to be. I actually dropped 25 spots to now sit 8,255th overall. Now, not the worst, but it is kind of deflating seeing such a big score and you're like, yep, expecting to climb the ranks, and just was not to be. Was not to be at all. So, yeah, we'll just have to take it as is and brush ourselves off. And hopefully we can, I mean, we're not going to be seeing these type of scores every single week, of course, but, you know, if we were to score anything close to that, we will, you know, more than often than not climb the ranks. So can't be too disheartened, but yeah, it just is a little bit flattening to see that. And you've dropped, you know, some places in the overall ranks. But in terms of how I went overall, as you can see here in the defense, not too bad. I mean, Jordan Clark, he had a bit of an off week. He's had some really good form. Sinclair, I think he's back to that good form as well. I think he's kind of back to, you know, those little chip-to-chip kicks and getting those cheap points off halfback now that the Wang, as we'll call him, has moved more into the midfield, which is good to see. He's an incredible player. And, of course, the match winner for the Saints on the weekend just gone, as we know. Outside of that, I mean, big scores from Bont, 169, Dacos, 177, Butters, 124, Holmes, 130, Grundy, 137, Gorn, 146, Baslenka, 156, and a host of other, you know, scores that just passed the ton mark, which was good to see. Mills, 125 as well, can't forget him. So some really solid contributors across the board. And, of course, here, I've only got the one trade in hand, and I'm still of the opinion I'm going to hold it for as long as I can. However, having said that, I mean, I've changed so quickly, haven't I? One player that has caught my eye, of course, is the man himself, Jezza. Now, Geelong have a very, very, very soft run home. And off the back of that, there is opportunity for Jezza to potentially kick 100 goals this season. And I have no doubt that the Cats will be trying their hardest to get Jezza over the line. I mean, on the weekend just gone, they just absolutely beat up on the opposition and goal after goal after goal. And he kicked, 11 in the end. And I didn't think 100 goals was within realms of possibility, but now it actually is off the back of that nice performance there. But the Cats, they do have some really, really nice opponents on the run home, you know, soft opponents. And if we just have a quick look, they've got Port Adelaide this weekend. Essendon, of course, injury ravaged, getting pummeled week after week. Sydney, I think they're kind of out of finals calculations now, but, you know, could do a bit of a number on them, especially if, you know, the 100 goal mark is within, grasp for Jezza. And then, of course, rounding things out with the match against Richmond. So I think it's going to be a almost, foregone conclusion in terms of him average. I mean, at the moment, Jez is averaging an 88.3, which jumped up from an 83.9 the previous week off the back of that 167 that he scored against North Melbourne. But a really, really tantalizing prospect for those of us out there that don't own him. His ownership has jumped, and I do expect it to jump up even more and push into the 10% mark over the coming week or two. But we've got to be conscious as well that he's already gone up 25.5K to now sit priced at 471.3. Very, very nice price point. And I've seen a whole host of people maybe weighing up trading out Caleb Daniel or someone like an Adam Chera. Now, Adam Chera, the teams were released, of course, this evening and has, unfortunately, not been picked off the back of a knee injury, from what I understand. I don't know what the outlook for that is. If it's just a week-to-week prospect, a 1 weeker, we don't know. But for those of us out there that do own Chera, it is a bit of an issue to, maybe think about. Short, of course, short term, but longer term as well. Because if it is an injury that keeps him out for 2-3 weeks, it's virtually a trade, given we've only got, 4 rounds left of the home and away season. So Jezza, I'm really, really interested in him. His break-even as well is a 0. So if he scores 102, according to SuperCoach Gold, he will increase 44.9K and price him at 514, 515 or thereabouts. So might be kind of out of the price range, depending on how much money you do have in the bank. I've only got 27.4K in the bank. And if I was to, punt a player like Chera, that would give me at the moment just enough, literally about $1,000 in hand remaining if I go Chera to Jezza. And keeping in mind as well, Chera has kind of fallen off the wagon a little bit in terms of his scoring in recent times. He hasn't turned up in 6 weeks, which is incredible. And one of those games was against North Melbourne, and another one against Melbourne. The win against Melbourne, wasn't able to turn up. So he's dropped actually pretty much $100,000 dues since round 15. And he's out of form, and people were complaining about Caleb Daniel being out of form, dropping that 66. This is kind of in the realms of, the same thought pattern. Chera isn't the most highly owned either. He's owned by 12.4% of the competition. And if you were to trade him to someone like a Jezza, of course you would need DPP eligibility to do so. Now I do. I've got 5 of my players that do have DPP, and I can swing them into the midfield and allow me to trade Chera direct to Jezza. So let me know your thoughts. If you're tuning in live, let me know your thoughts. Should I do it? Or, as I said, should I just hold on to this trade for as long as I can? It is, of course, an injury trade, but we don't know how long Chera is going to be out for. If you do know, you may have heard more than me. Feel free to fill me in via the live chat. But outside of that, it's kind of where I'm at. In terms of VCNC, I'm thinking of just the basic, Maxi Gawn up against, I think it's going to be Bailey J. Williams at West Coast, because they have dropped Flynn, unfortunately, who is the man who's conceding a fair bulk of points to opposition rucks. But, Bailey J. Williams, he's more of a pinch hit in the ruck. And Miso Gorney should actually score quite well. So you expect that. I think it's probably a given. I was very, very tempted to go for LeBont, and he has scored quite well, a 151. So kicking myself a little bit, but I'm kind of looking at my Cash League matchups now and trying to find ways to get one over my Cash League opponents. Now, one of my major opponents has Gawn and Grundy. There are others out there that don't have a Grundy. So, I think if I was to go for the Bont, I wouldn't pass up that VC score of 151. It'd be ridiculous if you're going to. But Grundy against potentially a Goldstein, who has given up fair points to opposition rucks, because around the ground, he just does not have the aerobic capacity. He's an old man, and whilst he can kind of hold his own to an extent in the ruck, around the ground, he concedes bog points. And I think Grundy will run rings around him. As we know, that's kind of what he prides himself on, getting those extra disposals, providing an option around the ground. So he's my captain option at this stage. But let us know who you're going for. I'm always keen to hear. Outside of that, I do have, of course, as we always do, we go through the round remix. And this time around, it is a bit of a remix, a recap of round 20. Now, round 20 was an incredible round, as we know. And it was a round filled with so many high scores. We had Bont, we had Dacos, we had a few, out there scores as well. So, yeah, it's just one of those things that I think is really hard to ignore. And I am conscious as well, we do have some people sending through comments and questions in the live chat. So feel free to continue sending those through, and we will address those in a moment as we come out of our round remix, which is titled at this stage, working title, bit wordy, 3,000 points. Am I losing my mind? You be the judge of that. Let me know your thoughts of this song.
Went mad. Round 20 hit and the coaches were glad. Dave goes dancing like he's on a wire. Blood's on fire, guns climbing higher. Grundy's a beast, Wanganeen's a flash. Every trade this week turned into cash. 3,000 points and I'm losing my mind. SuperCoach chaos, the rarest kind. Gun and Grundy Wang in the bomb. Scoring so high, it's absurd to flaunt. The bench warmer stood and started to play. Every loophole plan just paved the way. Captain's loophole, oh, it paid off twice. Daco said here's 100, maybe slice it thrice. My league chat's buzzing like a neon sign. They say, what's your secret? What's your design? I said it's luck or maybe divine. Round 20's the round we all want to rewind. 3,000 points and I'm losing my mind. SuperCoach chaos, the rarest kind. Gun and Grundy Wang in the barn. Scoring so high, it's absurd to flaunt.
How about that? What a tune, what a track. And I don't know if you heard it, but the closing lyrics are "Get out your Wang." Of course, a bit of a play on words there with the Wang himself, Nazaya Wanganeen Millera. What an absolute gun! He's probably one player who I am just ruining not having in my team, because I know that he dropped in price, and at that time I was like, do I get him in my team? I'll love to just rewind back and work out that moment as to who actually I brought into my team instead of him, because I imagine, I think, I'm not 100% correct, but I think it was someone like a Neil, and Neil's no longer in my team. I actually punted Neil because he was slowing down, looked like he was going to get tagged. But let us know who you are ruining about the fact that you don't have a certain player in your team. He's mine, hands down. And what could have been? What could have been? But hey, you can't win them all. You can't, be looking back and just, looking back in anger, as Oasis once said. But it's just, a reflection piece, just looking at players and ones that drop in price that are pure value. And when you pass them up and you come up against opponents in leagues and everything who own them, and it's like, I could have been that owner. I could have had that man. But anyway, it is what it is. Let's roll through some questions, comments, everything else. And we have Footy Refined late night stream. Indeed, it is. Great, man. Good to see you around these parts as always. Hope you're well. Jono, how are you, mate? You've said, hope fatherhood is going well, mate. Thank you. Thank you so much, mate. It's a bit of a journey so far. You might have heard it's our son, Felix. He's currently in some care at the moment through he's still at hospital, just in the intensive care unit. He's going well. He's progressing nicely, but born prematurely, and he just needs a little bit of assistance with his lungs, because of course, being premature, it meant that his lungs are a little bit smaller than what they would be if he went to full term. So yeah, he's going quite well. He's putting on, packing on the pounds, as they say. I think he's just, secretly just, pushing the tin, as they say, in the gym, and growing nicely in length as well. But just an incredible privilege to go and see, this. It's so weird to say that I'm a dad, but to go on and see this human that we've created, it's such a strange thing. It really is, parenthood. I can't get my head around the concept of it. Yeah, it is crazy, but no, it really is a privilege, Jono, and I'm so thankful that he's going as well as he is. Corey, I'm playing the same guys last week. Had a draw with him in my league. I hope I can get over the line. Have big uniques in Naz, Sinclair, and Anderson, mate. They are massive, massive uniques, because of the fact that obviously Anderson should pump out a massive score against paltry opposition, and likewise as well, Nas and Sinclair. So if you're going to go for pods, those are probably three guys you'd love to have as pods. Already down 40 points, Green versus Libba. Now, Libba has surprised me. I actually thought that he got injured last week, so I don't know what the injury was exactly, but I didn't actually expect to see him in the team at all this week, and wasn't bad enough to miss a week, obviously. So even Green, I mean, what did Green actually score? Now, I might bring it up on Fan Footy, and we'll go through some of these scores from tonight's game, bit of a segue, but Green was actually a player as well that when I spoke about earlier, guys that I am sort of ruining not having in my team. Tom Green's one of those, but he had a really off game, and I don't know why. Just a bit of a strange one, I think. Let's bring it up on screen now. Where are we? So there we go there. So Tom Green scored 79. 79. Craziness. So, I mean, what did he have? He had 25 disposals, 72% disposal efficiency, not the best. Oh, there we go. 5 turnovers. Yeah, that would take a hit to his score. And Libba, meanwhile, the bloke who I thought was injured, 119. Geez, that's unlucky, mate. But as you said, you've got those pods in your team, and you should be able to make up those points, you would think. Whilst we're here as well, let's go through the rest of the scores from tonight's game. Lockie Ash bounced back with a nice 139 after a bit of a down game last week. Lockie Whitfield as well, 126, had 29 disposals. Lockie Ash, 35. Connor Iden, nobody owns him. Callahan, 106. As we said, Tom Green, 79. Now, Harry Himmelberg is one guy that I was looking at potentially using my last trade on as well. But, just didn't pull the trigger, I guess, in this case. 92, he has got that position back in defense that he looked really juicy with, what was it, 2 seasons ago? Maybe 3. So he has got that really nice juicy roll back there as well. Now for the Dogs, English 202 double ton. We're talking about there in the round remix song, the line about Dacos, giving you 100. No, why don't we give it to you thrice? Now he's done the double ton here, English, and it's back to back because not for him, but when we talk about ruckman, Jordan Sweet, he tonned up, double tonned as well, 200 on the dot. So I don't know what's happening here. Is it just champion data just being more generous with points? Maybe, I don't know. Strange. The Lamont 151. So if you had the VC on him, you'd be locking that in 100%. Aaron Norton 137. Now he's in really good form. Sam Darcy as well. Nice score from him. Good to see big back-to-back scores from him. Finally 119. All important, of course. First round of finals in SuperCoach. Ed Richards 100 on the dot. Bailey Dale 97. Matt Kennedy, a few people opted for him over the past couple of weeks. Is that bargain option 95? Going down the list, there isn't anyone of relevance. And likewise for the Giants down the list of those that I didn't mention. Kieran Briggs, hopefully no one went for that bloke as an option in terms of trading out TDK. We spoke about him as someone that we wouldn't be keen on for a good reason, and he's kind of proved that. He's very unreliable, is the Briglet. Don't know what the go is. But that is a quick wrap-up of tonight's scores. And let us know who you had in tonight's game, if any. I imagine a lot of people would have had Bont. Did you, or are you an owner of English? And are you enjoying the 202? No doubt you would be. Rolling through the comments, questions, everything else. Jono, I'd love to jump on and chat, Damo, but I've got to head to work early in the morning. 100% understandable, mate. Now, I would normally do this live stream on a Friday, but I just figured might as well do it here on a Thursday. I don't want to cramp the style of anyone else because I think SuperCoach Rookie does his live stream on Friday evening. So didn't want to cramp the style there. Good man is, of course, SuperCoach Rookie, the late night up late session that he has. So just figured do this, bit of time up my sleeve to do this and do a bit of a recap. And I'll, of course, splice this audio out and put it up on as an audio podcast as well for anyone that wants to tune in the morning as well. Now, Corey, you have said my two choices I regret this year has to be Kennedy over Holmes at 498K and George Hewitt over Bont in the buys. You went for Georgie. No way, Causa. You went for Hewitt over Bont? Oh, man. Passing up the big super pod. The super primo super pod there in, Georgie Hewitt. He was looking pretty good at various stages. I don't know what he's scoring at the moment, but yeah, it's one you definitely take back. I think Holmes you could probably forgive yourself for because I started with him in my team and he was not looking good. I mean, his first two scores from memory looked really good, and then he had a patch of games where he just didn't really ton up and maybe tonned up here and there. But obviously in recent weeks or the past month and a bit, he's had a bit of nice continuity in his game, which is good to see. But Kennedy, kind of has recaptured things. I know he had a very low score in the mid-20s or something the other week, but you can't be kicking yourself too much. And just off the back of that, I want to ask the questions for those tuning in at the moment. How many trades do you have left, if any? And if you have a single trade left, what's your strategy? Are you going to hold that for the remainder of the season and SuperCoach finals? Or are you going to strategically use it, whether it be this week or coming weeks? Let us know what your strategy is and who you're eyeing off if you are going to use it this week. Footy, the stream is up. Let's go. Indeed. I saw it up for the last hour. I hope you are all right. No, I'm very, very well. Thank you, mate. Going as well as can be. Just very, very busy. Yesterday, in fact, because part of the reason, I normally have the podcast out on a Wednesday at the latest, maybe a Thursday at a pinch. And I was doing an all-day shoot with the Melbourne Renegades on Wednesday, of course, yesterday, for the new season of Renegades Recruit, which you will see out in, I think, October, which I was helping film on the day. And, of course, I will be cutting that together frantically over the coming months. But that took up, an entire day, the day which started at 6 o'clock and didn't finish until just after 4. So it was a very, very long day. By the time I got home, I was absolutely knackered. And I was keen to write up the run sheet, do a little bit of a record, but just did not have the energy. And of course, just finding the time to, head in to see our little man in hospital as well. priorities, of course. I just figured that this might be a little bit of a week off. I was going to take the week off, not do any content outside of course, my team talk, which I'll put out on Sunday evenings, as you will see. So at least that's a little bit of content that we have from week to week. But I just figured that I wanted to, try and cobble together around, recap as well as a bit of a preview for round 21. So grateful that you are tuning in live. And Footy Refined, you've said got Ash in round 7. Love him as a pod. Now, he has really, he's hit the mark. And I didn't think he'd be able to sustain it. And I'm a little bit salty because he took a fair few points away from Whitfield at stages there at the midway point of the season. And he was annoying me. But, I mean, the one thing for Ash is he's super consistent in terms of turning up. Doesn't really have the highest ceiling, although tonight, as we saw, 139, you'll take that every single day of the week. So very nice pod. And I imagine a few people would have jumped on him as well over the past month and a bit because he has been in some really good form. Corey, 3 frees against doesn't help either for Green. Yep, very good point there as well. Marshall could double ton on Sunday. Now, he could potentially. I'm a former owner of Marshall and punted him for, can't recall who it was, might have been Jackson. So in a roundabout way, Marshall's become Grundy. So I'm super happy that I've got Grundy. And more so just to mix things up, have a pod, have a bit of fun. Otherwise, I would have stuck with Marshall. But the issue with Marshall is that even though his fixture's good, he's such a frustrating own. Like, he just has off games, and I don't know why. And it was really pissing me off. And I'm like, you know what? I have an opportunity to get Grundy. Let's do this. And happy with the decision. Just want to have a look as well, just in terms of what's the score. So, without Cherry as well. So he should have a very, very big day out, you'd think. Is Marshall. Corey said, watch Heath play. That would be quite funny. We'll have to wait and see with the finalised teams, but very well could play. I thought Rook does Saturday night, or maybe he does Saturday night. I'm not too sure, but I just figured do it now, and I could always do a live tomorrow as well if no one else is doing it. But I'm just conscious of not stepping on any toes and everything, and just more so getting out content on a Thursday as I normally would at the latest with my normal podcast. So that's kind of the thinking there. Corey, yep, I did when they said win Hager tag to Bont. I jumped off. Oh, yeah. That's fine. I think when it comes to, like, one of my key learnings across the journey is that when it comes to super primos in the likes of a Bont, Butters, Dacos, those ilk of players, I don't really care about tags for those big players, especially if it's a 1 weeker. Like, you're trading in that player for the remainder of the season, and they're a keeper. And, if a 1 week is going to scare you off, normally I just don't pay any attention to it. So it's one of the key learnings. I think I've made that same mistake in the past, Corey. But yeah, it probably comes down to if you need pods. But for me, my mindset is always reach for the top shelf, reach for those big players, because at some point, I mean, he was kind of out of form earlier on, Bont, but you can never keep a good man down. And he's definitely one of those. So it was only a matter of time. It was unfortunate. I actually jumped on him when I thought he was going to go bananas. It may have been, was it against Richmond? And then he kind of dropped off the wagon a bit, and people got him at a cheaper price point, and I was like, come on. So yeah, a bit of an interesting one there. But just happy that I've got him. Footy, you've said 3 trades, and I don't know my plans. I'm erratic and unpredictable, have no idea what I'm doing. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that is a good thing, I reckon, because you kind of can tend to overthink things, which is kind of what I do, what I tend to do. One of my pitfalls, I guess, is that I overanalyze things at times, and I'm like, okay, well, should I go for this player? Maybe I won't. And, I think that was the case with Wangan and Miller, because I owned him. It would have been last year I owned him, and the issue with Wang is he didn't have a ceiling. Like, he was consistent enough, and you would have seen in my preseason, Liam and I, we both did our preseason analysis on the defenders, and with the help of Jaden Popowski's stats by Jaden, go and check out his website, incredible statistician. He actually broke down the stats for Wangan and Miller in 2024, and a bulk of his points he got through direct disposals. So if he was not getting big enough disposals, he wasn't getting big enough scores. So they were really intrinsically tied. And I was worried about the fact that if St Kilda were playing, easy sides, and I think that was maybe the early season fixture was quite easy, maybe potentially. I don't know if it was, but that was just sort of sticky in my mind that the ball wouldn't make it down to St Kilda's defense, and Wangan and Millero would be starved of disposals and thus starved of a decent score. So that was probably my thinking there. But yeah, it's just probably a good thing at times to be erratic, unpredictable, and that's kind of what I was doing with Grundy. I probably should have not made that trade and probably wouldn't have made that trade in the past. But I was like, you know what? He's a big pod and a nice pod in terms of being able to VC and captain him, which gives me that leg up in my league, cash leagues and matchups and everything. But, I think sometimes you got to throw caution to the wind, and, there's no use in being vanilla 100% of the time. So, mate, you've got 3 trades up your sleeve. If you want to do something erratic, do it. And that's probably, again, my thinking about using my last trade to get in Jeremy Cameron, which is breaking a cardinal, rule for me, is that I don't like to go for key position forwards. Yet I've done that almost with my last trade, and it would be for 2, maybe 3 years running now, where I'd be going for a key position forward, and I've been burnt. I was burnt last year with Charlie Curnow, who was out injured, came back to bite me in the ass, and I think copped a donut in the last 2 rounds of the season due to Charlie being, underdone, had that ankle injury, and then was out. And isn't it, poetic in a sense that Charlie is actually done for the rest of the season for Carlton and won't play for the remainder of 2025. So, yeah, it's very, very roundabout, history repeating itself almost. Corey, I have one trade considering using it this week, depending on how I'm going. Depending how it's going on Saturday, more than anything, vice captain will be Anderson. If I had Anderson, mate, I would very much do likewise, as well as the fact that, if you don't own any decent prospects before that game, I mean, if you own a Gawn, I'd probably recommend him as the VC and maybe Anderson as the captain. Anderson facing Richmond, he could bust out a double ton potentially. Supercoach Pra. There you go. Thanks for joining us, mates. Long-time viewer here. Well, thank you, mate. Appreciate you jumping on for the live. Hope you're going well with the newborn, mate. Loving the late night stream. Thank you. And great to have newbies on board here. Even though you have been watching, as you've said, for a fair while, it's always good to meet new people that have been, just behind the scenes, quiet and everything. It's part of the fun of the Supercoach community, is just reaching and chatting, conversing, everything else with different people, different walks of life, with the shared passion of Supercoach. So thank you, mate, for joining us, and thank you for the kind words as well regarding parenthood. Scary thing. Corey, as you said, watch Heath play. Now that would be, a bit of almost someone throwing a tree branch into someone's spokes of their bike as they're riding at 60 kilometers an hour, and that would absolutely scuttle most people's weeks that own Marshall. But I still think he can probably score well even if Heath does play. Jono, I'm very much looking forward to next year already, as my season has been a roller coaster. I recall you actually saying this time last year, Jono. But yeah, you're totally right. I think a lot of people have clocked off. As you will see in terms of like our content, I mean, every content creator as well, it's kind of a trend where the viewership numbers, the listenership numbers as well, if it's an audio podcast, tends to sort of dip from rounds maybe 17 until the rest of the season. It just dips incrementally. It's like, it drops almost by like 100 listeners or 100 viewers every single week. And it's a normal thing. And that's a reflection on the interest of super coaches out there hitting its limit and waning, everything else, whatever you want to call it. And it's due to the fact that people are running out of trades. And that's kind of the fun part of Supercoach, the strategy side of things. And also the fact that if people haven't made their finals in their leagues, well, then interest goes out the window as well. So you can kind of understand that. And part of the reason why I like to hang on to my trades for as long as I can at the back end of the season, just because it provides that bit of fun. And part of that reason why I went for Grundy as well, because it gives me that fun factor, really, outside of when you have used up all your trades, the only fun thing that you have to do is try to nail the best captaincy score. And where's the fun in just doing that? Jono, Heath won't play Causa. There you go. Spoken by a sainter himself in Jono. 402.5K to spend on anyone this week. Who would you go? Very, very interesting call there, Jono. Now, let's have a look. Let's see if we can help you out. And if anyone as well has any comments, questions with regards to their team, feel free to flick them through. Always happy to chat through things. Now, 402 doesn't leave you with much, mate. Doesn't leave you with much. Now, I don't know what area of the ground you'd be looking to spend that coin in, but let's see if we can nab anything of relative interest. So for Sam Flanders is 401.7 now. He had an off game last round. Faces Richmond this round. Could bounce back nicely, but isn't really getting the CBAs that we thought he might with Tookie out. Now, Took Miller is back in the team. So a bit of a quick turnaround for Took Miller, because I thought he was going to be out for 3 to 4 weeks. And I don't think he's been out for that long. But yeah, I wouldn't be touching Sam Flanders. Outside of that, could you go for Ryan Marich again? No, probably not. Mason Wood, one of your Sainters. No, wouldn't be touching him. Wouldn't be touching Shea Bolton, even though he's an up and down roller coaster himself. James Peatling. Could you go for the Pete man? How's he been going? Pretty ordinary. Outside of the ton on the weekend. Ooh, there's not much. There is not much, mate. Gee whiz. Yeah, I'm just scrolling through. There is nothing jumping off the page here. Nothing at all. Once you go sub 400, it's really, a needle in a haystack trying to find a player of consistency and decent scoring. How's about Jake Stringer? Scored a 93. Been scoring okay in recent weeks, but 35 tonight. Fallen off the wagon there, and it's probably just Jake Stringer. The package was not delivered. No, there's no one. I'm in like the 350 mark, and there's no one jumping off the page. I may have missed someone. I don't know. But wouldn't be touching anyone that I'm scrolling past here. No. Mate, there is no one. There is no one. Yeah. No, I'd hold on to that trade, mate. If that's your last trade as well, no, I wouldn't be using it. Are you using it as an upgrade? Are you trying to upgrade to someone? Because if you are, and putting your money on the head of a rookie, you're not going to get anyone of decent scoring, I don't think. No. I mean, at a pinch, I've just scrolled all the way down to Dylan Shield priced at 295.4K. Could you go for Dylan Shield? Scored a 98 against the Dogs last week. His return game in round 19 scored a 70. Other scores, he scored a 92, 88, 111, 74. Let's have a look at DFS Australia, because I want to see if he's getting CBAs. That's the big thing for Dylan Shield. Or is he playing off halfback? So Dylan Shield, I think he might be playing. Yeah, he's playing a bit of 67% CBAs in round 19 and 56% CBAs in round 20. So not bad. And his scoring's okay. Like, if you're after someone of around about that, he's got a little bit of consistency with variance. So a bit, unforgiving. But forgiving enough, because he's got some decent scores there. 92, 88, 111. He's got injured in round 7 game for 52. His return game, he was a sub, 22, and then was the sub again for a score of 15. So that's sort of scuttled his price point. And then his 2 most recent games returning at full games, 70 and 98. So if you count that, discounting that injury game, the 22 and the 15, which were sub-affected, and we include the other scores, he's actually averaging an 84.7 across 7 games, 78, 61, 97, 91, 93, 70, and 98. So, mate, that's probably the only player that I'd be looking at that, price point. And yeah, there's not much else to look at. But he's a bargain. 295.4K, probably equivalent scoring you'd get from maybe a rookie. But as we know, he could break down because he's not the most durable. So hopefully that helps you in anyway. Corey, haven't had Bont or Butters all season. At least in round 16, did Zorka to Dacos, which is good. Well, at least you got on Dakes. If you were to fade Bont, Butters, and Dacos, geez, you'd be feeling that. That's for sure. Footy, I was thinking Marshall, but might go Daniel to Jez this week, and then we'll have 2 trades for injuries and barring injuries and suspensions. We'll use them around 23. Now, Footy, are you playing for league finals, mate? Cash leagues or any important leagues? And is that your thinking in terms of holding it for round 23? Heading into the grand final, round 24. Jono, starting Bont and Butters next year, course. I think for me, like, there are non-negotiables. Those are players there that I kind of have to get in my team and build out around them. And strategy that I employed this season compared to last season was I was trying to limit the amount of players that I had priced at 600K or above. And I think that kind of served me well enough. But with Bont, delayed start and a few others, Butters as well, they kind of forced my hand in a sense. But yeah, what did you do? Did you previous seasons do that, like in terms of get those big name players in and build out around them? Or did you try and go pod and hope that they would drop in price? Supercoach, I like Peatley and Bolton at that price. There you go. That's why I'm erratic. I overthink things. This is Footy Refined. I just cross my fingers that whatever I'm doing at that certain hour when lockout hits is a good move. Ash in round 7 was a midweek move from Holmes to Ash. Now, I think that's probably a win. I think over the course of the season, surely. Just trying to have a look to see, just compare the pair, as they say, Ash and Holmes, because that would be surely similar. Now, Holmes is averaging a 109.7. Ash is 109.3. So very, very similar. Some may call it sideways, but I think more often than not, the consistency of Lockie Ash probably is better than Max Holmes. But Holmesy, I would say, I would wager, has the highest ceiling of the two. But, much of a muchness. The pod factor probably would have helped you out as well there, Footy. Jono, what's Peatling like recently? I don't think he has been the best. I mean, I scrolled past him before, but yep, I would probably go for Shield even. I mean, if you've got another trade up your sleeve as well, going for Shield would give you a fair bulk of cash left over, I imagine, which is always handy if you've got one trade left. But yeah, Peatlings is not too bad. Footy Refined, I think Holmes probably outscored Ash from round 7, but at 1 million, there you go. There you go. It's worked for you, mate. Supercoach, not that consistent, but he's got Eagles, Pies, and North to end the season, so I can see him having a good end of the season. That is in reference to Peatling. So fixture is always a big thing as well. Could be a good shout. Says, Jono, my season has been solid, but below standards for me. He's looking at someone at that 400K price point on any line. Footy says, Jono, if you can find 30K, Hayden Young is a very, very nice pod. That is a great point, Footy. That is a very great point, because he's kind of getting into the groove of things now. 431.2K, that is a juicy price point. For a player that has a very, very nice ceiling. He's been sub in round 19, got injured back in round 8. Started the season with scores of 79, 83, 103, but of course it was injury interrupted. Only started this season in round 5. And then his past 2 games, as I said, the sub in round 19 against the Pies, 55. And then on the weekend, he had a 20. I think he started as a sub again, but came out and smashed it. And I think won the medal in the derby, I think they call it, don't they? Against West Coast was Hayden Young. I'm offloading Robert. You still got Roberts, mate. Jeez, okay. Supercoach Pra, how long do we think Chero is out for? I got 1 trade left, so wondering if he's worth the trade or wait for a worse injury to another primo. Now, let me put this to bed. I'm just going to have a look at this, because as a Carlton man, I did hear the rumor that he was at training with his knee bandaged. So it sounds to me that, let me see injury list. It sounds to me that he has the injury's not as bad, given the fact that he can train. But where is he here? He's not even on. Oh, there he is. TBC, which is that's concerning. That is concerning. I mean, that's the first we've heard about it. Was that injury update? Soreness. They don't know what it is. I mean, Charlie is out for the season. I think they're cleaning at his knee as well. But soreness is a bit of a worry because it says to me they don't know what the issue is. Could be causing inflammation, pain, whatever. It could be similar to what Charlie has. Now, I think Charlie had virtually some cartilage floating around his knee, had that cleaned out, and it just gets to a point there where it probably you can do more damage to your knee playing with that inside the socket, inside the joint. So if Chera has something similar to that, I would say we mightn't see him again for the rest of the season, which is unfortunate. So that's probably part of the reason why I'm thinking about going Chera to Jezza. Because I mean, I could always play in my case. I've got who is it? Clay Hall on the bench, but yeah, it's a conundrum. It is a conundrum. But if I was to say, does he stick around? Does he come back? Given Carlton are in the current position they're in, there's no incentive for him to be rushed back, and probably more incentive for Carlton to be conservative with him, get him in tip-top shape. And this is Chera, a guy who has been renowned in recent seasons, struggling with injury, and they don't want to go through that issue again. It's unrelated to hamstrings, which were kind of plaguing him for a fair while there, Chera. Thankfully, knock on wood, he hasn't had that and won't in the future. But yeah, it's just, I personally think we won't see him again for the rest of the season as a Carlton man, given the current state of Carlton, where they're at the moment. There's no incentive to play him. And, you know, there's, after this, three rounds remaining. So he's virtually out for, you know, a quarter. If you want to look at things in terms of weeks remaining, there's 4 weeks remaining, including this week. And that's, if we're going to call 4 weeks, you know, every one of those weeks a quarter. You know, a 1 weeker is a quarter left of the season. 2 weeker is half of the remainder of the season. 3 weeker is 3/4 of the remainder of the season. And of course, 4 weeks is for the full season. So if you look at things in terms of that, I think this is almost not a must trade, but it's a, you know, it's a decent time to consider trading, which is what I'm doing, and hence the reason why that is happening. Jono, it's your last trade. Well, there you go. And if you need to do it, if you don't have any other options to cover Roberts, I think it makes sense, because I don't know when Roberts is going to come back, and it looks as though he's lost his spot, which is unfortunate. Footy Refined, I'd trade regardless, SuperCoach Pra, unless you've got McCarthy as cover. SuperCoach Pra says, yeah, can play McCarthy, Daniel, for this week, but don't want to rely on that long-term for sure. Now, SuperCoach Pra, do you have more than one trade remaining? Because that probably dictates things as well. You could probably wait a week to see if Chera returns next week. In terms of when Carlton play next week in round 22, they don't play until the last game on Saturday, and it's against Gold Coast at Marvel. You could always wait a week, but if you're in a position similar to me, where if I was to wait a week with Chera and I don't go for Jezza this round, in all likelihood, Jezza is going to increase by 30, 40K. I'm going to be priced out of going direct from Chera to Jezza. So this is kind of, you know, must trade now if I want to make that exact move. So if you're in that same position, mate, I would put greater emphasis on trading out Chera, I think, than keeping him and not being able to afford to wait. Jono, have Bustlinger as cover. Yeah, well, that's probably not the best because I don't think he scored well tonight, did he? Footy, yeah, just wait till next week and have a look at the injury report. Footy Refiner, wouldn't touch Shield as a Dons man, rather go Bolton. I'd probably go for neither. I don't like Bolton at all. But yeah, Bolton can pop off for those big scores, but just expect some massive deviation in his scores. As we know, he can have a very nice ceiling, but a very, very shit floor as well. So Yeah, just keep that in mind. But beggars can't be choosers in your case, Jono, at that price point. Ross Laws, you've said hi from Croatia. There you go. Thanks for tuning in, Broad, mate. You're actually one of the first to do that for season 2025, outside of Jack Blucher, I think I pronounce his surname, or I think he's Blucher, Jack Blucher, one of our long-term and long-time followers, supporters, everything else for Supercoach Edge. And Ross, thank you for tuning in. You've said celebrating Timmy E. There you go. One of the rare owners of Timmy English. My mismanaged team is hanging in there. Trading Chera out as I'm playing for leagues. Can't afford to pump a donut. Yeah. I mean, you could probably wait a week in terms of just remembering we've got the flex, and it means we're not traditionally having a donut unless you've got a secondary donut and you're going down to 21 players, because virtually with Chera being out, it means your flex automatically subbed in, but it obviously means that you'll lose that strategy of having your lower score drop out of your team. So you're kind of sacrificing that. If you don't want to sacrifice that, then yeah, you kind of look at it in terms of maybe it being a donut in inverted commas, because it's not a donut per se. But thanks for joining us, Ross, and enjoy that big double ton from Timmy English. Will definitely help you in terms of those leagues that you are playing for that you've mentioned there, Ross. Footy Refined, I wasn't trading at homes, but I was choosing out of them. Scored 70 points more that week. Oh, there you go. Yeah, it's always the case, isn't it, where you're looking, and totally understood you there. You weren't trading at homes, of course. You were choosing between going for Ash or Holmes, and Ash being the pod, went for him. And that's probably one of the things as well. I think Holmes hasn't been a massive pod across the season from memory, whereas Ash has. And that appeal there, I can totally understand it. But it would have kept you in good stead with him being a pod Ash and, yeah, being able to score as consistently as he has been. Supercoach Pro only has one trade. Well, there you go. Okay, well, in that case, mate, I'd probably look to trade Chera. But again, if you're coming down to your strategy, are you going for leagues? Are you going for overall? You could probably throw caution to the wind for both of those, I guess, reasons. But and as well, you got to factor in what is your bench depth look like. That probably, counts for a lot. I mean, I've got Clay Hall who can sub in for Chera. Now, what I am going to do is West Coast play this round on the first game on the Saturday against Melbourne. So I'm going to put the emergency on Clay Hall. And what I can do, see how Clay Hall scores. If he scores well or well enough, now he has been scoring in the 80s over the past 2 weeks from memory, I'll probably just leave things as they are. But by the same token, I might even just go Chera to Jezza and maybe try and do a bit of a loophole with another player. I don't know if I can do it, but I might put, Zach Johnson, for example, from the Dons, who's not playing on field, put Clay Hall's score, obviously that subs in, and maybe I do, I don't know, something in defense if I can try and wrangle something. I don't know. Using the flex, I'm not sure, but yeah. I'm still keen for Jezza, though. I mean, it's a fun own, isn't it? It's much like the being an owner of Grundy now. It's fun. And I don't think there's any opponents that have Jezza in my leagues as well, or my main league matchups, my first week of finals. So, Jono, you've said, have you thought about any plays for next year? Now, not really at this stage. The only one that comes to mind immediately is, Kitty Coleman. Hasn't made his return to football, had that knee injury, and we haven't seen him after, I think it was a hamstring injury he may have sustained, that he had knee soreness and a few other things. But he's probably one that I'd be looking at if he was fit. Similar to, we were saying this last year, or the year before, rather, when it was last year, yeah, because, when he went down with that knee injury, we were all saying that in 2025, Kitty Coleman's going to be someone we'll jump on, and just has not been fit. But, it all comes down to price point, I think, more than anything. It's really hard to say, who switches teams, who gets decent roles, who gets a switch up in roles, who gets more time in the midfield, all that sort of stuff factors in. And we don't have that data set as yet, or, knowledge of who's moving clubs. That, kind of dictates whether or not a player is good enough. But one thing that I am already thinking about is the opposite in terms of which guys I want to avoid. And I think it's probably those older players. Now, it's funny that I mentioned that because going into this season, that was one of my strategies, was avoiding those players that have the regression in their form. We see guys that hit a certain age and their scores start to regress. And I swore myself off the likes of Neil. I swore myself off the likes of Zorko. And it was only because of the fact that the hurricane or whatever it was at the start of the season, meant that Brisbane weren't going to have the early season, early round bye. I was like, all right, you know what? I'll bring Zorko into my team. I'll bring Neil into my team. And it means that I get, bonus of not having to own those players who I thought may have had the early buy as well. So it counted against me. Otherwise, if it wasn't for that hurricane, I wouldn't have owned either Zorko or Neil, in all honesty. So I can blame that bloody hurricane. But that's probably one of the things that I didn't really stick to, and I was swayed because of that change in the fixture. But I will definitely hold myself to that in 2026. Let us know any players that you're going to avoid for next season. I can't really think of anyone else that I want to avoid actively, but guys that I would be keen on is Luke Jackson. If, Shrek Darcy moves clubs or whatever, he's definitely one of those players. Cherry, I think he's probably one of those players as well. I want to try and have in my team. TDK, John, if you're still around, mate, I don't know what your thoughts are in terms of TDK, but I'm not a massive fan. If Marshall's not at the Saints and TDK is 100% ruckman, I would say yes. If Marshall's still in St Kilda's team, no siree. We're not going for him. Footy Refined, you got any insights in how SuperCoach AFL finals worked before? Heard it happen before. Now, very, very good point, mate, because otherwise I would have forgotten about this. Now, SuperCoach finals, I was around for this when it was last around, and I've been calling for it to return for so many seasons. Now, the best part of this is it's kind of like a bit of a hybrid between AFL Fantasy and SuperCoach AFL. Now, I say that in terms of you've virtually got unlimited trades. You choose a team of players from those teams that are playing in the first week of finals. So that includes elimination finals, or would it be qualifying finals? And is there another one I'm forgetting? So there's the 2 elimination finals, there's the qualifying finals. No, that's it. It's the 4 finals, isn't it? 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah. So you choose from the 4 teams available. Then in the second week of finals, any team that gets eliminated in those elimination finals, you can obviously not select any players from those teams. You can only select players from the teams that have survived the first week of finals. Those teams that play through to the prelim final, you can't select them either because they're obviously not playing the second week of finals, but you have unlimited trades. So you can actually select a team if you wanted to. Say it was, who could I pick? Collingwood, for example. So say, for example, Collingwood, in the first week of finals, they're obviously there. You could pick an entire team of Collingwood players. You could pick an entire team of Collingwood players, bar maybe 2 positions. So it's virtually the same thing as SuperCoach, same scoring system, everything else. It just, you have a limited pool of the players that you have to select from. And then, as I said, when teams are knocked out, you can't select those players, and you just select a new team every single week across the course of the 4 weeks of finals. And that's it. Highest scoring team wins, and you get an accumulated score across the weeks. So you virtually start from 0 in the first week of finals. And I imagine if they're going to continue what they did last time, it'd be still, weekly prizes for the highest scoring team, so on and so forth. So I haven't really heard anything about the prizes. So let us know if you have heard anything. I just heard the announcement and I was like, I'm keen for this. It's a good thing. It's something they should have brought back a long while ago, because it just helps in terms of, capturing interest of SuperCoach players out there. As I said, a lot of people drop off this time of season. Naturally, trades run out, those who miss finals, everything else. So they should definitely be doing it. Footy Refine, you've said, I feel next year my SuperCoach team will be dictated, at least in the rucks, by player movement. Fair point. TDK, solo ruck Saints, Marshall maybe at Geelong, Cherry the flex, who knows? Yeah, I mean, a lot of us out there as well for the flex. This is the first time that we used it for this season. And going into it, a lot of us were thinking about using Flynn as that flex player, which I didn't mind, but Flynn just didn't work out because he's not a decent ruckman, really, especially in a super coach sense. But, I found that over the course of the season, having a player that has DPP eligibility just opens things up massively. If you use my team, for example, as you can see, McCarthy is defender mid in the flex. I can swing someone that has, mid defensive flex into the flex position. I can swing McCarthy back into defense, and it then allows me to go, a midfielder into the flex. And then if that midfielder is a forward mid, I can bring a forward into the flex. So there's just so many different things that you can use to switch players around your field and whatnot. And it's a really, I reckon, underutilized tactic in terms of that DPP ability that it really opens up. So I am all for it. The flex position, it's worked a treat, and it's one of the better inclusions they've made for 2025. The heads of the SuperCoach, the brains trust of SuperCoach. But yeah, who knows? Do we go with an expensive player in flex for 2026? I've always said that we use, or we're being given the same limit of salary cap year on year. Give or take here or there, I think they kind of lower the price point of certain players, but by and large, we have the same salary cap. So if you're having a primo in your flex, it virtually means that you have less money to spend across the rest of your field. So you may have to go for an extra rookie. And, strategy-wise, it probably comes down to, again, the quality of rookies, as we saw with Levi Ashcroft. Finn O'Sullivan didn't quite live up to the billing of expectations of him being a decent scorer. But there are decent rookies every single year, as we know. Jagger Smith is definitely one of those for season 2026, and I'm super keen to see him as a Carlton man as well. But, do we potentially go, with an extra rookie in the flex if they had that potential to score well enough as, an averaging 80, 90 odd player? Like McCarthy's a perfect example. If he was available at the start of the season, imagine the amount of money extra that we'd have up our sleeve to have him in the flex and to spend across the rest of our team. So really, that's something I'm looking at very, very closely, and strategically we'll be, trying to decide how best I use that flex position. Where are we? Supercoach Pro, you've said Neil is my biggest avoid. Yep. And Naz and Richards are my biggest locks for next year. I think Naz is definitely 100%. Personally, I'd love to see Naz at a different team compared to St Kilda. I just feel as though he's kind of been gifted in the fact that he hasn't been, tagged week on week as yet. If he goes into the midfield full time, which I think he probably will at some stage, he's going to attract the tag more often than not. Has been going to, say, Steele in recent seasons. But the St Kilda don't really have, I don't think, the caliber of player to, bamboozle opposition teams and make them think about who they're going to tag. Whereas Naz just stands out like dog's balls in terms of, you have to tag this bloke. He's so hard to tag as a rebounding defender because you have to follow him up the ground. Whereas if he's at the stoppage throughout the game as a midfielder, he's much easier to tag. So yeah, I'm just a little bit worried about that, but it's something to keep an eye on. And yeah, he's an exciting player, that's for sure. Footy Refined, is there unlimited cash? Same amount of positions? Yep, unlimited cash. You can have as many players in your team as you want. That may change it, I don't know, but back then it was unlimited cash with unlimited trades, of course, as well. Footy Refined, locks for next year if they have a healthy preseason, Young and Ash. Yes, Young, yep. He's going to go under the radar, I think. But, yeah, not the most durable. And, yeah, Lockie Ash, I think, he's kind of proven himself to be that consistent player. And I always thought that maybe Whitfield might have, sapped a few points away from him, but kind of hasn't happened, which is good. Levi Ashcroft would have been the perfect flex with DPP. That he would have. I think a lot of us overlooked that and saw Flynn and the fact that Ruckman kind of a little bit of a cheat code in terms of the way they score, but Flynn was just shit house. And the fact that West Coast are currently looking at trying to lure across Darcy Cameron just speaks to the fact that they've kind of had buyer regret in getting him from the Giants. Supercoach Pra, hope Hayden Young can have a full season next year. So good when he's fit. He's an incredible player. 100% would love to have him at my mob in Carlton. Footy Refine, now I have caught up to the comments here, which is good to see. And we have actually rounded over the hour mark here. So we might wrap up the stream in around about 10 minutes or so. I am conscious as well that he's currently 12:32 a.m. As we record this, and we are, all those of us out there as well, we either have work, uni, school, everything else. So I don't want to keep us up for too long. And I am absolutely hanging for a bit of a sleep as well. I've got to work tomorrow. I have to go out and shoot some footy for a couple of private schools that have a grand final, which will be good fun. Always love shooting some footy, no matter the level. Footy Refine, you said, if Naz goes to Port, who gets the tag? Yeah, it's a very good point. Butters, honourable mention, Rosie or Naz. Geez, that'd be flushed with, a couple of decent players there. I think it probably would be Butters still, but, Naz is that impact player, and he's really, really blossoming into that sort of player who, in his own right, is probably almost, approaching the levels of a Butters. Such is his, incredible form. Supercoach Pra, who's your ideal ruck for the Blues if TDK leaves? Interesting question. Of course, a bit of a plug here as well. Bit of a plug. Let me jump across before I answer that question to, I will actually grab it. I'll take it off screen here, so I'll do it in the background. But I just wanted to plug my alternate channel, and it is Blue Baggers Edge. Now, if you have yet to check out my channel, if you are a fellow Blue Bagger as well, please give it a look. There it is on screen here as I stream it. Blue Baggers Edge. Of course, I do reviews, previews throughout the season, and also during the preseason. That's where it's all at. Talking about the trade period, draft, and some big views here as well. 3.4K views on the announcement of Jagger Smith being a bagger, and analysing what he can bring to the table, chatting about the draft, everything else, editorial type stuff, chatting about the flashpoint of, when Carlton passed up, Dan Houston with the view to try and re-sign TDK, which now that's come to pass, there's a bit of a discussion point there, where did Carlton look? So everything and more with that channel. So the sister channel, we'll call it Blue Baggers Edge. Check it out. Feel free to sub as well. Give us a like and appreciate the support. But in terms of your question there, Supercoach Pra, I think it's going to go, like, Pitnet's obvious. He's a really, really good tap ruckman. Probably one of the best in terms of hit outs to advantage. I saw a stat. He's up there in the top 5 in recent weeks in terms of the impact he can have in the ruck. There's no question there, but he's more of the, I guess, traditional lumbering ruckman around the ground. Doesn't do enough in terms of what we see TDK doing, having an impact around the ground, being that sort of nice option on the wing to kick down the line to and push forward and everything else. Pitnet doesn't quite do that. He's that old school lumbering ruckman, doesn't do enough around the ground, doesn't do enough at the stoppage either. Whereas TDK, he's always sort of that extra midfielder, I guess, as that tall midfielder, like a Luke Jackson. But TDK, his deficiency is in the ruck. He doesn't win enough of hit outs to advantage. Sure, he can sort of break even, but where he does the fine work is at the stoppage there. So it's kind of, he's the opposite to Pitnet. Pitnet can do an incredible, sort of role in the ruck as a pure ruck. Doesn't do enough around the ground. TDK loses the ruck, hit outs to advantage a lot of the time, but does more around the ground. So it'll be a little bit of adjustment, I think, but it might actually be a benefit to the Carlton side in terms of his impact at the stoppages in a ruck sense. So I can see him being the step in there. Not the most ideal replacement, obviously, but we have been linked to Ned Reeves, who I actually rated at the Hawks, and he's kind of, lost that number 1 ruck role when Hawks went for Lloyd Meek. Meek has carved out that role there, and I would really love someone of Ned Reeves. He's kind of more of a hybrid between a TDK and a Pitnet, and I can see him being of use as well. So, I mean, ideally for me, I'd love to see us go for Ned Moyle from Gold Coast, but by all reports, he's not going anywhere. He's happy to stick behind Witts, who may retire in a season or two. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. And there's also Hudson O'Keefe, a young ruckman at Carlton, who has been given games, in sort of the middle part of the season before he got injured. May even return this week as well, has been named on the extended bench. But he is someone that's still developing and maybe that next ruckman in line that they may be looking to sort of usurp Pitnett. Footy refined with Carlton looking like a Lou Silvani. What do you want the Dream Blues offseason to do, and what do you think they will do in reality? Now, I don't want to hijack this into the Carlton chat because, of course, we can do that on my sister channel there, as I mentioned. There is, again, flashed up on screen, Blue Baggers Edge. But, of course, if you are a fellow bagger, go and check it out. But just to quickly summarise, I am disappointed to lose Silvani. I do expect him to go to Collingwood. Do I blame him? Do I have any resentment? No. I mean, he's the player sort of at his age and at his stage of his career. He's looking to win a flag. If he thinks that's, best served at Collingwood, good luck to you. I'm the sort of person that, doesn't hold resentment. And, if I was in his shoes, I would probably think similarly as well. I still think if he does stick around at Carlton that, he can definitely play a role. Will he win a flag, at Carlton over the next 4 or 5 seasons? Who the hell bloody knows? Because Carlton in his current state is in a shambles, but I do think there are quality players there, and I do think Michael Voss and the coaching staff are a massive, massive issue, and we will definitely see an improvement when they vacate their roles. You can quote me on that. But just with regards to Silvani, I think with losing him as well, got to remember that we have Harry Dean coming through the draft as well. He has been rated as the best key position defensive talent in the draft. Comes with a high pedigree. His father's son is expected to be bid on in the first round of the draft. And I am super, super, rapt to have this bloke in our team. Virtually, not like for like. He's actually probably going to be better than Sauce. Sauce is really good, I think, in the way that he reads the play and his speed off the mark as well is really, really underrated. He's such a smart footballer, so it will be a loss in the short term, but longer term, having that, opening there for Harry Dean is going to, I think, be a very, very good thing. So it might be just, really good timing for Sauce to be, parting ways with Carlton, but also a good time there to allow him to leave and have that spot there for Harry Dean to develop his game and be that centre-half back that Carlton have been crying out for, that we haven't had for God knows how long. I mean, we had Jamison, we had Brett Thornton, we've had, so many people cycle through that defensive position who just aren't up to the challenge. Jamison, it doesn't quite work. But in terms of the dream off-season, I would love the club to try and nab Sam Flanders from Gold Coast. We were linked to him in his draft year. We didn't go for him when Sauce was the head recruiter, absolute dickhead. And ever since then, every time I watch Flanders, last season when he was played in the midfield at Gold Coast, I was like, this is the bloke that we could have had. And now it's kind of worked in the favor of teams like, Carlton, Dogs, any Victorian team that wants to sort of appeal to Sam Flanders to lure him back to Victoria. It's a perfect time to do it because Dimmer's playing him in a weird position as a high half forward. I imagine he wants to stick around, play in the engine room. An incredible player, disposal efficiency just top notch, and one of the best performers in terms of his endurance and speed at the draft in the the draft combine. So I would love, that's probably the one player I'd love for us to try and get on the cheap, but I don't think Gold Coast would be willing to offload him for, what we would be able to offer. So outside of that, there is Lee Kalia, getting confused with names there. Lee Kalia is someone that I thought we could have looked at last year, didn't do it. St Kilda's being linked to Lee Kalia. Just depth in that defensive post that we don't really have outside of Lewis Young. And now if we lose Silvani, we're going to be losing extra depth as well. But again, we'll chat about Carlton on that channel there. Plug, Blue Baggers Edge. So check it out. Everything else. Let's continue on. Aaron Fellows. Thoughts on last 2 trades? Johnson to cheap rookie, Chera up to Gawn. Love that, mate. Other option, Rankin to Cameron, then Hewitt to Gawn. I think you meant to say loop Chera or just hold trades. Depends what you're going for, mate. If you're going for leagues, you could probably go for the 2 trades, provided you do have enough bench depth. Otherwise, it's a little bit of a gamble if you don't, and you're using those 2 trades. I love the fact that you could go share up to Gorn. That's an instant win. Depends as well if you're going Johnson to a cheap rookie, and if that cheap rookie is going to play on field, it probably wouldn't work because that cheap rookie may punch out a low score, which offsets the high scores that Gorn's able to give you. However, if that cheap rookie is on the bench and Gorn's on field, obviously, big win. Rankin to Cameron, I'm not a massive fan of. I think Rankin can still average around about a 90 odd, give or take. Cameron is a very, very nice, I'll call him a pod because he's still below 10% ownership. Hewitt to Gorn, again, if it's Georgie Boy Hewitt from Carlton, I think that's a little bit of a waste. So I'd probably go for the first option there, mate. And yeah, again, depends what you're going for. Here we go. Sorry, you've said here. To give context, I don't play anyone this week. I'll finish top 2 on my cash league, but feel I will be priced out of Gorn if I don't get him. Yep. Well, your hand's probably like, not forced, but, your decisions being made for you in that sense there because, similar to me being priced out of Jezza Cameron, going Chera to Jezza, being priced out of Gorn, who's a even more reliable and better prospect than Jezza. He would be someone that I would encourage you getting for sure. Footy Refined, will you get a pick compo for Silvani? Yeah, I think it probably will be, a second rounder. It depends as well, length of contract and the money that's being paid to him. Some are suggesting that it may be end of first round. I don't know. Traditionally it works in terms of the round of pick that you've got. So I think at a guess, it would be a second rounder. But ideally at this stage, as I said, with Harry Dean, he's going to be most likely bid on in the first round of the draft, which means that Carlton need to trade in, ample points, draft capital, in order to match the bid to get Harry Dean. So whatever I think we get from Silvani in a roundabout way will allow us to get Harry Dean, his replacement. So it's a little bit poetic in that way, in that sense. So, I think there is merit. As I said, a bit of a win-win in that case. Win for Silvani to potentially have a crack at a flag, albeit a Silvani and a Collingwood jumper is not going to be the best sight, but it is what it is. And again, I don't hold any resentment or grudge against him, much like TDK. Mate, if I was in TDK's shoes and I'm an avid bagger, there's no way I'd be able to pass up that money that St Kilda are offering me, even if I had to play for St Kilda. Of all teams in Victoria, St Kilda is probably one team that I would not like to play at all, really, but you can't pass up that money. So again, TDK, go for your life, mate. Corey, did you hear if Naz's dad, if he played 60 more games at North, he could have been a North player? His biological dad is Eddie Sainsbury. There you go. I had no idea, mate. Eddie Sainsbury. So how does that work then? So, because his surname is Wanganeen Millerer. So how does that work if his dad's Sainsbury? Because the child normally takes the dad's surname. I don't know. That's an interesting tidbit there, Corey. Geez, he could have been in your colours at North. Wow. SuperCoach Pro, are you thinking of playing SuperCoach EPL this year? I'm going to release some videos on it. Well, there you go. Good plug, mate. And go for your life. So if anyone tuning in, SuperCoach Pro, which is P-R-A, not SuperCoach Pro, different bloke, good bloke in himself in his own right. This is SuperCoach Pro. He's going to be doing some EPL content. Personally, I don't follow the EPL at all. I don't really know much about the EPL, so I won't be doing any content on that. Not my domain, so I'll be stepping back and watching. Might even, watch some of your stuff there, SuperCoach Pro, and potentially learn the gig. So I might even start a team, just a bit of fun, and see how we go. I don't know half the players apart from the big name players, but I do know that who would it be? There are a couple of people that are doing content. I'll be happy enough to retweet them. There aren't really any. I think maybe DR with SuperCoach. The lads are aligned with him. They might be doing some EPL. Maybe even the Scottfather himself. I know he's a big fan of the other round ball in football. He may be doing some content as well. But not for me. I'll be doing the next up after this, doing some cricket Big bash SuperCoach as always that I normally jump into after the AFL season. I could also do some AFLW fantasy rather, but I kind of need a little bit of a break. I think it's been a long, long year for myself, and yeah, I'm very, very lucky to be able to find the time. And it's been a pinch at times to try and find extra time in my life to keep punching out this content. So it's probably a good thing that we're approaching the end of the AFL season. I'm just absolutely cooked. I'm drained emotionally and everything else because of a little man on the way and caring for him and finding the time to go in every single day and see him in hospital. So yeah, it's one of those things that at SuperCoach AFL has been great in terms of being a nice distraction, everything else. But yeah, I'm pretty tired and probably a good time for me to have a little bit of a rest. And Liam's the same as well. He's been absolutely smashed with work and everything else. And as I said in previous streams, that going into this season, because we were very, very drained in 2024, we did a whole host of content in the preseason. We burnt ourselves out earlier than what we wanted to. And we made a pact heading into 2025 that if things get, very, very hectic with work and, personal lives and stuff, that, take some time off if need be. So that's kind of been the case for both of us at various stages. And hence the reason why we kind of have had to find some extra time to re-energize and, have some, time with the personal life and stuff like that. But again, SuperCoach Pra, if you are tuning in, check him out on YouTube, SuperCoach PRA. And there will be, of course, a host of other content creators out there that will be gearing up for that SuperCoach EPL season for content. Footy Refined, I could do Merritt and Daniel to Gawn and Cameron. Ooh, or LDU and Daniel to Cameron and Marshall. I'd go for Gawn over Marshall. And in both of those scenarios there, you're trading at Daniel. So that's a foregone conclusion. But, trading LDU over Merritt probably makes more sense. But Merritt probably gets tagged for the remainder of the season as well, cops attention. So I would go for Merritt and Daniel to Gawn and Cameron. Gawn, more often than not, should score more and better than Marshall. That's just my opinion anyway. And I think LDU should be okay, scoring similarly, I think, to Merritt, in all honesty, but like option one. Aaron Fellows, thanks for joining us as always, mate. I'll do as you said. Johnson to rookie. Chera to Gawn will give me Mills D6. Not bad. I've got Mills as D6 as well. McCarthy M8. Yep, he's my flex. That's fine. And Marshall, Gawn, Cherry as my two rucks. And one of those flex. One of those is the flex. F6 is Sam Darcy, mate. If you're rolling with Marshall, Gawn, and Cherry, two, R1, R2, and then as the flex, you're in a great position to have held that as well. And of course, if you're going for leagues, a lot of people would have traded out Cherry. So it gives you that, that bonus, that pod in a sense that a lot of your opponents won't have held Cherry by and large. So yeah, that's a bit of a ace up the sleeve, as it were. And then Sam Darcy, sorry, he is in my team as my F6 as well. So I like that. Like the sound of that. But again, follow your gut. Don't take my word as gospel. That's just, my opinion, if I was in your position. But sounds really good to me, mate. So best of luck. Supercoach Pra, cheers for the plug, mate. Best of luck for the rest of the season. Thank you as well, mate. Really do appreciate, the support that you've given me. As you said, you are a long-time viewer, a long-time listener, but first time on the live chat. So again, just good to sort of put a username to the support that we're getting out there. Footy Refined, if I do those trades that you've mentioned, I will have Cameron at F6. Yep. Gawn, Grundy, and Witts. Ooh, where's your pod? Jeez, mate. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Are those your last two trades there, Footy Refined? I imagine they would be. It sounds as though like a lot of us are using our last trades. I reckon I might do the same, in all honesty. I might just bite the bullet. Chera, he served me well. He's out of form. He's injured. And I reckon he's probably the way that he's been playing. It wouldn't surprise me if he's actually been playing through this knee soreness. And if that's the case, who knows how long it's going to take to repair. Footy Refined, you've said you would have one trade left. Yeah, I like those moves, mate. I like them. I like it a lot. I would be going down to 0 trades, but it would allow me to, where are we? I'm just going to bring up my team again, which I've lost. Here it is here. It would allow me to rely upon some bench depth in the form of Clay Hall, especially, and I have DPP swings across the board. The other guy that I was looking at is Tristan Cherry. Now, it'd be more so as like a grand final super coach type move where I'd be hoping that Cherry drops in price, which he probably will. He's priced at 573.5K, break even at 159. And his first game back, if he scores a 90, for example, he will drop around about 30K and go down to a price point of 540 odd. And then after that, his break even would be still quite high because that 57 that he scored in that injury game against Melbourne, or that down game against Melbourne, not injury game, suspension game, should say. That 57 sticks around in his price cycle for the next 2 rounds that he plays. So if he scores a 90 in his return game, drops 30K, then his break even would be around about 170 odd against the, whether it be the Giants or, it would be against the Giants, would be his return game. Richmond would be his second game back, which is a really, really good second game back, of course. He actually might even score the 177 break even against Richmond, but again, probably drops around about 20 to 30K. And price point wise, he's probably around about 510, 515, 520, could even be closer to 500. So don't mind that as an option. But do I go for Jezza? Jezza is probably the one that gives him that immediate sugar hit and probably, allows me to punch out some decent scores. A relative pot as well. Pot out this week. Essendon should dominate. And Richmond as well. Geez, what's he scored against Richmond? And so Essendon 116, round 14, he played them this season. Port Adelaide, he played back in round 10, 108. Sydney 96, that was in 2024. And then he finishes off with Richmond, the round 24 game. I mean, we spoke about Cherry having a nice run home. Geez, round 24 grand final. That's the one player that you want to have in your team is Jeremy Cameron. So, gee whiz. Imagine like if he's, 6 goals short of say the 100 mark, and they would be looking for Jezza, his teammates, at every opportunity. Bulk goals, similar score, I reckon, to what he scored against North Melbourne on the weekend with the 167. Jeez, it could win you a league. It could win you a league. And I mean, you've just got to be really mindful of the fact that he may have maybe one down game. I mean, he's kind of had a couple of down games, albeit against decent quality opposition. Brisbane scored a 63, the Giants a 43. Outside of that, Essendon 116, Richmond 131, St Kilda 114, North Melbourne 167. Yeah. I reckon he probably averages better than what Chera has over Chera's past 6 weeks or whatever, where he hasn't turned up. And I think he's kind of averaged Chera. Just a quick estimation, I reckon around about 80 odd. I reckon is his average, 85 maybe, over his past 6 weeks. I reckon Jezza could smash that. So for me, I reckon I'm going to do it. I reckon I will. But we won't do it as yet. Because we'll wait and see how Clay Hall performs. But even so, we may still even do that. And maybe we try and do another loop. I don't know. But outside of that, ladies and gents, I might end things here. I might wrap things up because I am conscious that we are approaching the hour and a half mark of this live stream. So again, thank you so much for joining me on the live stream. We still have 11 people tuning in. So you are just committed viewers. So thank you so much for the support. Always appreciate it, of course. If you are a first-time viewer, first-time supporter, you can take that support to the next level in the form of a like and a subscribe. Of course, again, we do appreciate all the support, but the subscribe side of things is one thing that really helps us out, because first and foremost, it just lets us know that you're enjoying the content that we're putting out week on week. And also, it allows YouTube to know that, hey, they can promote our channel a little bit more. And I guess the analytics wise, the algorithm, what they do is they push our channel out to put more people who have not seen our content, and it just helps us. So if you are willing to help us, we are more than grateful. Hit the subscribe button and you will help us in turn. For people tuning into the audio podcast, again, you can give us a review. If you have a little bit of time up your sleeve, you can give us a rating, of course, out of 5. Hit that 5. Give us a like, give us a bit of love. We'll give you love in turn. And just with content, of course. And outside of that, I think that wraps things up. I was going to do a bit of a preview for round 21, but we're already in round 21. The first game started. Western Bulldogs, Giants. We know what to expect. If you have Gold Coast players, and of course they're facing Richmond, you're going to be rolling in some points, you would think. Melbourne against West Coast. Actually, it might be a tight encounter. We don't know. But, we have a whole host of decent captaincy options there. Grundy up against Essendon. Gold Stand, of course. Gawn up against West Coast. Another VCC option. There are a whole host. There are Holmes, of course, against Port Adelaide. We've got Baslink. We've got Butters. We've got Dacos against Brisbane, who he scores quite well against as well, mind you. So it is going to be a very, very nice round. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it's as high scoring as the previous. Footy Refined, you said thanks, mate. Good stream. I hope the baby's able to get out of hospital soon. Thank you so much, mate. Just a patient game. That's all it is. It's testing patience more than anything. And as long as it takes, we don't care. As long as we get our little boy home safe and sound and as healthy as can be, we'll wait as long as we can. But with that, thank you again, Footy Refined. Just a bit of a shout out for those people tuning in to the stream. SuperCoach Pra, thank you, mate. And again, check out his content for the EPL, which will be releasing soon. Aaron Fellows, Corey Blackledge. We have, scrolling through, John O'Carroll, of course, one of our long-time supporters. And maybe forgetting someone. If I am, I do apologize. I'm scrolling through very, very quickly. But those are the top liners out there. So thank you, as always. Aaron Fellows, did I say your name? If I already did, you're getting mentioned twice. So thanks, ladies and gents, again, for your attention, interest, and support overall. And with that, we will catch you at the conclusion of the round. We will, of course, come back with our team talk segment and, of course, the podcast proper, making its return in round 21, heading into round 22. Thank you again. We'll catch you on the flip side. All the best for the round 21 ahead, and we'll see you in the next one. See you, bye.